What if the smart, financial decision everyone praises is quietly costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars? What if the thing that feels responsible is actually destroying your future wealth? Today we are talking about one of the biggest financial myths in personal finance: paying off your mortgage early. And the truth behind it might completely change how you think about debt. Most people believe that the faster you eliminate debt, the better your financial life becomes. It sounds logical. Debt feels like a weight on your shoulders. You imagine the day when the house is finally paid off. No mortgage. No bank. Total freedom. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Financially, the numbers often say the opposite. To understand why, we have to start with something most people ignore: inflation. Inflation quietly changes the value of money every single year. Your mortgage payment stays the same, but the value of the dollars you use to pay it slowly melts away over time. Imagine you bought a house, and your mortgage payment is $2,000 per month. Right now, that feels expensive. Maybe it is 25% of your income. Every month you feel the pressure of that payment leaving your account. But fast forward 20 years. Inflation averages about 3% per year. That means the purchasing power of money slowly declines. After 2 decades, those same $2,000 will feel very different. In today's dollars, that payment might feel closer to $1,200. And your income? It probably didn't stay the same. Over a long career, wages usually rise. Promotions happen. Skills improve. Even if income only grows at a moderate pace, the ratio between your salary and that mortgage payment becomes smaller every year. This creates a strange situation. In the beginning, the mortgage feels heavy, but over time it becomes lighter and lighter without you doing anything. Inflation is quietly shrinking the real value of the debt. Now think about what happens when someone aggressively pays off their mortgage early. They start sending extra payments every month. An extra $500. Maybe an extra $1,000. Their goal is to destroy the debt as fast as possible. Emotionally, it feels amazing. Each extra payment feels like progress. You feel disciplined, responsible, safe. But financially, something subtle is happening in the background. You are choosing to repay the bank with today's valuable dollars instead of tomorrow's cheaper dollars. Think about that for a moment. The bank gave you money when it was worth more. Over time, inflation reduces the value of those dollars. If you stretch the loan across the full term, you gradually repay that debt using money that is worth less and less. From a purely mathematical perspective, inflation becomes your silent partner. Every year it erodes the real burden of the loan. Let's run a simple thought experiment. Imagine 2 homeowners with the exact same mortgage. Same house. Same interest rate. Same monthly payment. The first person decides to pay the loan exactly as scheduled over 30 years. No extra payments. Just the required amount every month. The second person is determined to eliminate the mortgage quickly. They double their principal payments and finish the loan in 15 years. At first glance, the second person looks like the clear winner. They eliminated debt faster. They now own their house free and clear. That sounds like the ultimate financial victory. But here is the question almost nobody asks. What did that decision cost? Every extra dollar used to attack the mortgage is a dollar that cannot be invested somewhere else. And that brings us to one of the most powerful forces in finance: compound growth. When money is invested, it doesn't just grow. The growth itself begins to grow. Earnings create new earnings. Over long periods of time, this effect becomes massive. Now imagine someone has a $2,000 monthly mortgage payment. They decide to add an extra $1,000 every month toward the principal. Their goal is to eliminate the loan in 15 years instead of 30. But what if that same $1,000 was invested instead? Not in something exotic. Just a simple low-cost index fund tracking the S&P 500. Historically, the market has averaged roughly 10% per year over long periods. After 15 years of investing $1,000 per month, the account could grow to roughly $400,000 depending on market conditions. That is already a serious amount of money. But the real power appears if the investing continues. Instead of stopping after 15 years, the investor keeps going for the full 30-year period. Now the numbers start to look dramatically different. Compounding accelerates. The investment account keeps expanding. And over 3 decades, that consistent $1,000 monthly investment can approach or even exceed $2 million depending on returns. Meanwhile, the person who rushed to eliminate their mortgage achieved something very different. They ended up with a paid-off house earlier. But the house would likely have appreciated regardless of the loan schedule. The real difference appears in the investment account that never existed. Now let's compare 2 people, Michael and Daniel. Both bought similar houses, both earn similar salaries, and both have similar mortgage payments. But they make one different financial decision. Michael hates debt. Every extra dollar goes toward paying off his mortgage as quickly as possible. After years of extra payments, he finally owns the house completely. But most of his money is now locked inside the property. Daniel does something different. Instead of sending extra money to the bank, he invests it in a brokerage account. Year after year, his investments slowly grow while he continues making normal mortgage payments. Now imagine a recession hits and both lose their jobs. Suddenly the situation looks very different. Michael owns his house, but he has almost no cash. His wealth is stuck inside the walls of the house. Daniel still has a mortgage, but he also has hundreds of thousands of dollars in investments. If he needs money, he can sell some assets and continue paying his bills. So who is safer? The person with a paid-off house and no cash, or the person with a mortgage and large liquid investments? The answer is simple. Liquidity creates security. And this becomes even more interesting when we consider inflation. Imagine Sarah takes a fixed mortgage in 2025 with a $2,000 monthly payment. At the beginning it feels expensive and takes a large portion of her income. But over time inflation slowly reduces the real value of that payment. Years later the same $2,000 does not feel nearly as heavy because salaries and prices have increased. That means she is paying the loan back with cheaper dollars in the future. But if she rushed to pay off the mortgage early, she would lose that advantage completely. If you do itemize your taxes, the math can become even more interesting. Imagine your mortgage rate is 4% and your tax bracket is 25%. The interest you pay becomes partially deductible, which lowers the real cost of the loan. In practice, that means your effective interest rate may drop closer to 3%. And when your borrowing cost is only 3%, the hurdle rate for investing becomes extremely low. Let's look at a simple example. Mark has a mortgage with a 4% interest rate. Instead of rushing to pay it off, he invests extra money into the market. If Mark earns 8% or 9% long-term returns while borrowing at 4%, the difference becomes pure financial leverage. Over decades, that spread quietly compounds into serious wealth. Now I already know the counterargument, because it appears in every discussion about investing. What about risk? What if the market goes nowhere for 10 years? What if someone retires and still has a mortgage payment? Those concerns sound logical, but they miss a critical piece of the puzzle: liquidity. Consider another example. Sarah chooses the investing strategy instead of sending extra money to the bank. After many years, she builds an investment account worth $500,000. Even if that portfolio only produces a modest 4% annual dividend income, that equals $20,000 per year. That income alone could cover a large portion of a mortgage payment. In other words, Sarah's investments can effectively pay the loan for her, while the principal of the portfolio remains untouched. She keeps control of the asset, and the bank simply receives the scheduled payments. But we should be honest. There are situations where paying off a mortgage early does make sense. For example, imagine David who locked in a mortgage at 8% during a high-interest rate environment. In that case, aggressively paying down the loan becomes equivalent to earning a guaranteed 8% return. There is also the behavioral factor. Suppose Alex knows he struggles with saving money. If Alex doesn't send the extra $500 to the mortgage, he might spend it on gadgets, vacations, or random purchases. For someone like Alex, extra mortgage payments act like a forced savings system. But disciplined investors think differently. They view debt not as a moral failure, but as a financial tool. Companies use debt to expand. Governments use debt to fund projects. Wealthy investors use debt to amplify returns while keeping their capital liquid and working in the market. So here is a simple, practical step. Imagine John currently sends an extra $500 every month to his mortgage company. Instead, he opens a brokerage account and invests that same $500 into a low-cost index fund. Over time, that separate account slowly grows into a powerful financial safety net. And one day John realizes something surprising. If an emergency happens tomorrow, that investment account is available immediately. The extra money he would have sent to the bank would be locked inside home equity. But the invested money remains flexible, accessible, and growing. That difference between locked equity and liquid assets quietly separates people who simply own a house from those who build real financial strength over time. The goal is not just to eliminate debt as fast as possible. The real goal is to build flexibility, opportunity, and financial resilience. When your money stays liquid and invested, it keeps working for you every single day instead of sitting silently inside the walls of a house. If this video made you rethink the way you look at mortgages, investing, and financial freedom, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown. Thanks for watching, and until next time.